Questions, comments, please. I can run on.
You were saying how, go ahead.
Sir?
Okay. So where does all this end?
Yeah.
You know, I'm saying, you know, you got all these guys at the top. We know what they did. In order for them to get the money, to become wealthy, in order for them to become wealthier, they're already wealthy.
And in that position.
So they eliminate part of the middle class. So they become poor. In order for them to have wealth, they got to have so many poor
There's
people.
much to that.
So where does all this end if you got everybody at the top has all the wealth? Is that to dictate we know that's setting up a base of cheap labor. We know that can easily happen when you got all these people. You can pick and choose who you want to work with.
Let me insert there. IBM, just in the last week, was laying off, I think it was like 15,000, 20,000 people because their markets have moved offshore. They were offering to help former employees that were being separated to relocate to China and India.
Huh.
Wait a minute. What is that about? Where does it all end? I mean, one of the, there's a lot that FDR administration did that was positive of its own accord, particularly in the first period. And then there was a fair amount of grassroots activism that pressured, etc., in order to get further pieces in. But at some level, he's been described as a moderate and saving capitalism from itself. But, he was also reviled big time by all kinds of people on Wall Street. Anybody know the story behind Smedley Butler? Anybody? Nobody? He was most highly decorated, I think he was a lieutenant colonel in the Marines around the early part. He had left the service and so forth. Some people from Wall Street approached him to lead a coup against FDR. And he politely listened to him, and then busted them in terms of turning in that information to people in the government.
Anything happened with that?
No.
They said they were just kidding, or they didn't mean it.
Well, they slid out from under it, but they did approach him. He had a book, I forget the name of it, but it's something on the order of My Life as a Racketeer for the Big Business, where he was going into all these countries, like Nicaragua and so forth, essentially to bust up those situations, to make them friendly towards U.S. corps.
Huh.
Where does that all turn around? The grassroots is going to be real important. People understanding what the hell's going on, that there is an alternative, another way of doing things, rather than this casino economics, where everybody loses.
Could you explain the difference between, I think it's value economy and debt economy?
One of the key elements in here is a concept of debt-based money. Right now, under our current system, the Federal Reserve and various banks have the ability to put money into the system. At one level, it's based on the idea of fractional reserve. The common definition is for every dollar they get in, they can loan out 9. It's also true Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac had leverages up to 40 to 1 in terms of their situation. Part of the reason for that, they made them a premium investment spot because there was federal guarantees laid on those organizations from when they had been controlled by the government. Okay, which made them, again, a premium place to invest. So they got to leverage more. And then there's various other little regulations that went sideways that allowed the federal fractional reserve ratio to morph higher and higher. Part of that thing is, you got to understand, is when money is loaned out under a debt-based money system, the amount of money in circulation goes up. Okay, it increases. There is a different way of approaching it. Money as debt is one of the videos up here. They talk about value-based. You can also call it asset-based money. We've had asset-based money several times in our history. One was the Continental early on. There was this is part of monetary history, but there was an aphorism or a saying that came up towards the end of the Revolutionary War that it wasn't worth a Continental. Okay, that there was too many in circulation and so forth. But what most people don't understand is the British were out on the ocean with their printing presses madly counterfeiting the Continental. It's also an economic attack on the economy of the colonies, okay? So the debt versus value, debt versus asset-based thing is important in terms of what money they lend into circulation ends up both being a fractional reserve issue and then the compound interest that goes on it. Understand that when they loan something out, the whole premise is they end up getting more back than what they loaned out. But where does that more come from? So it's an ever increasing, it's one of the type of a bubble things. It has to keep increasing in order for that stuff to be paid back in. Again, there's stuff up here that will explain it more thoroughly. But that's a problem. I mean, the greenbacks of Lincoln, he used a similar system. It was money that was issued by the government. It was totally legit under the Constitution. In fact, it's the Federal Reserve that's not legit in terms of the Constitution, not the opposite. And the Union was able to get through Civil War without going deep into debt to the Wall Street bankers.
Huh.
Big, important. Coming up with infrastructure. Infrastructure things, bridges, roads, hospitals, schools, etc., are things that are used to provide a situation, a society where people can come in and make money, earn money. It's like if you don't have the truck to go out and haul stuff, you can't earn money by hauling. It's just not there. So you've got to have the base structure, bridges, roads, etc. So money can be spent into circulation. There's one up here called the Guernsey Island experiment, or Guernsey monetary experiment. Guernsey Island, it's back to the 19th century, but it's really useful. They didn't have a bank there, but they had the materials to build a building. They had the people to do it. So what they did is they issued their own currency. They were able to build a big city hall thing and so forth. They didn't have to go into debt to do it. Part of the problem in there is also to control how much money is going into the economy. But again, if the money is being circulated from one to another, one person to another, to the bricklayer who then goes by to the grocery store, to the dentist, etc., this money goes round and round in terms of exchanges. If there's too much, then the value goes down. I mean, the same kind of balance could be done there that's supposedly being done now in terms of, well, Wizard of Oz, anybody know it's part of the story behind that? That was supposed to be a satire on the Federal Reserve. Huh. The little guy behind the curtain, what they're doing is juggling the interest rates on the currency, and that was how they're controlling the economy. And the yellow brick road is about gold. Oz is OZ for gold, being measured. So, I mean, most people don't know that the version they see on TV, Hussey has been rewritten a bit, but the original was supposed to be a satire. So back in the late 19th century, early 20th century, the literacy rate in terms of people knowing what's going on was way higher. It really was. And again, I come back to these flyers.